joined by SIVAN, who is Senior Data Team Manager at Calm. Thanks so much for joining us, SIVAN. Do you want to give a little overview and introduction to yourself and Calm as well?
Sure. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So Calm is the campaign against living miserably. We are a suicide prevention charity, and I guess our main goal is there are a couple of different things. Mainly, we reject living miserably, as our names say, through campaigns. People might have heard of 84. Where we had figures of 84 men. This is the number of men lost to suicide in a week, and then so we had figures of men on the ITV building a couple of years back, and some other campaigns aim to break the silence around suicide, and this is sort of what the against part is, but we are for standing together, with friends and communities, and we would like to live in a world where no one feels that suicide is their only option, that there are many options out there available, including a lot of materials you can find on our website, articles about specific issues, and mainly our helpline and web chat, which both are active 365 days a year, from 5 p.m. until midnight. And this is where anybody can have somebody to listen to them and sort of help them to find a way forward. And that's about Calm. I guess about me, I'm a senior data team manager, which means that in my team, we're in charge of Salesforce mainly, and everything that goes into Salesforce and out of Salesforce. And I would say that all of us within the team are we're big fans of data. We kind of appreciate the power that is there in data.
Yeah, awesome, and thanks again, SIVAN, for joining us. Back to Calm. I guess firstly, it's a truly amazing organisation, and sadly, obviously, suicide is becoming a more prevalent topic of conversation, and something that we're seeing more and more in society. And obviously, there's a lot of attention now given to sort of mental health, and also that you're working for an organisation that's trying to sort of readdress that sort of balance. What sort of impact has Calm had thus far, and is hoping to have in the near future?
I think we've made suicide a lot more spoken of. I can definitely see things changing within society. I think previously mentioning asking people about suicide, or telling people about previous experiences with, I would say that all of us would know somebody who was lost to suicide, and I think Calm definitely plays a major part in being able to talk about this. This is a very difficult experience to have experienced, being harder by needing to keep silent. I think there's a lot of stigma around sort of feeling hopeless, feeling that there's no way out. While actually, I think we've seen that a major thing that can help this is speak to people, speak to friends, speak to people. Want to help. People always want to help. It's about starting this conversation, and not necessarily from the perspective of the person struggling. We can start a conversation with people we think are struggling. I think we've seen that it might be really helpful to ask a person, how are you? How are you really? And to start this conversation, there's no shame in struggling. And there are a lot of resources available. And I think we are trying to make these, to create these resources, but also to make them more available and known to the people who need them the most.
Yeah, absolutely, and like you said, sort of the main thing that everyone seems to try and sort of get across or state is sort of talking to somebody and having somebody to talk to and go to if you are really struggling, and it sounds like obviously Calm is sort of, that's their main sort of purpose or focus, right? Having an organizational body who are available for you to talk through and share your struggles with, and hopefully sort of to get you feeling more
I can
positively
mention,
about life and things.
I can mention another thing about Calm's impact. I think we've seen a couple of years back, the government decided to have a minister for suicide prevention, and that was Calm was lobbying to make this a focus, because rates of suicide are negatively incredible, and there's no reason for that. This needs to be resourced, not just by charities, but also by the government. And we've seen steps in the right direction.
Good. And great to hear that you're having sort of an impact on sort of policies and political reform, as well as the other great things that you do. So let's talk about, I guess, your journey, so to speak, with Calm from a technology perspective. So I think, from off the top of my head, from memory, you've been there sort of 5 or 6 years now.
7.
I think 7 years now. Sort of, I guess, what was sort of the first or the remit of the role when you first joined Calm 7 years ago now?
So Calm was a very different organization. I joined to an organization that was 10 people sat in a room together, and I was the first person to handle Salesforce. So the organization had already had a Salesforce structure working, but the purpose of the whole thing was to be able to record. We were receiving donations from platforms like Just Giving and Virgin Money Giving that doesn't exist anymore, and the purpose of Salesforce really was for us to be able to record these donations and to be able to thank our supporters, our amazing supporters, in a way that's recognizing their contribution. And we didn't have, so one of the first things that I wanted to change was we didn't have, so on our website, if you wanted to donate to Calm, you couldn't do it directly into our website. You would be redirected to Just Giving. So one of the first goals that I wanted to achieve was for us to be able to accept donations straight into the organization. But I think it was our social structure was very specific, in the sense of donations needed to be recorded. That was it. It was very manual. There was there were no integrations. It was spreadsheets that I used to upload on a weekly basis into Salesforce. There was a lot of paper involved with some other aspects. So people would, and I'm talking 7 years ago, it's not that long ago. If people wanted, we had, if you wanted to, let's say, run a marathon for us, we could have sent you a running vest, but in order to get that, you needed to print a piece of paper, write down your order, send it to us via post, and then we would sort of record that into Salesforce. So very, very manual, and very sort of, just directed to answer those like very specific needs of needing to know how our supporters working with us.
Yeah, I got you. I imagine sort of when you first joined, there was sort of things such as that, particularly sort of automating processes, if you could, that are identified by the stakeholders as sort of key things that they wanted to achieve. But I'm sure sort of once you got through the door, there was, I guess your eyes were probably open to a lot more potential that the Salesforce could have, an impact that it could have within the business with your expertise as well.
I think very quickly people started realizing that actually Salesforce can do a lot more for them. And I would bring my own ideas. I would see people's processes, and suggest ways to improve that. But yeah, it was all, I mean, the beginning of that was very sort of, okay, what what is it that we're trying to do with Salesforce, and how can we make users' lives better?
Yeah, yeah, and absolutely sort of key questions to be asking at the start of any kind of journey such as this, right? So sort of obviously, sort of you came in, obviously realised sort of what the organisation looked like at that point from a size perspective, and like you said, those processes that you felt that you could perform better using sort of Salesforce. What I guess sort of tools or products did you sort of choose to sort of solve these sort of problems, or was there already sort of things in place that perhaps weren't really being used and tapped into that you can leverage a lot more with your knowledge?
So the basis of everything was NPSP, the not-for-profit success pack, which was already installed, and especially as a small organization, that was being able to use that was really helpful. Just in the sense of it's very basic process of donations, and you can do things like dedupe contacts really easily. So that's really useful for people who are less technical, so not necessarily Salesforce administrators, but users can use it quite easily. So that was the basis of everything, and until this day we use it. And then on top of that, we've added Form Assembly, which is not a Salesforce product but integrates with Salesforce, and that allowed us. That was the first donation form we've ever had on the website. So that integrated in real time into Salesforce, and we started with one and added many more, which also for us it was the first time we could control the data that we record. What is it that we're asking people, and how can we get to know them better? Beforehand we didn't have any control of that, because that would have gone through a third-party platform, and whatever they recorded, that's what we had. And that was quite a few years ago, but more recently we've added Marketing Cloud into the list, and that's revolutionizing our ability to be able to communicate with supporters in a way that works for them, is personalized, is timely, and on the other side of that, to measure our impact. I think this is something we're focused on a lot more these days, and we weren't really in a position to do that. I think it's the case for a lot of small organizations. You know what change you want to make, you're not really sure how to measure it. So I think using Marketing Cloud kind of allows all of that. We're able to see what is the interaction with the communications we send, and we're able to learn from it. And to sort of come to conclusions sooner and change the way we work according to the reaction to that. Yeah,
absolutely. And I guess that ties in or segues into my next question quite nicely, because obviously, particularly in non-profit organisations as well, where sort of obviously purse strings are sort of super tight, and sort of business decisions have to be made with sort of financials, particularly in mind, more so than probably other industries, and the fact that you've now got sort of tools that can sort of significantly measure those sort of outputs that you're potentially generating with sort of some Salesforce products. What sort of has the I guess appetite or senior level buy-in been to sort of Salesforce throughout sort of the journey that you've had over sort of the last 7 years or so, and how did you sort of overcome any sort of hesitation or reluctance to sort of potential new products or investment in the platform and technology more broadly?
Well, 7 years is a long time, so I guess there isn't one answer to that massive period of time. This is something that I can definitely say that in the last couple of years, there's a lot of focus on that. We understand, so senior management understands the importance of that, and I think we're understanding more the options that data and analyzing our data allows us to be working with. It hasn't always been the case. I think it's definitely for a small organization. I guess it's a struggle. You kind of need to decide, especially in the charity sector. You kind of need to decide what you're gonna invest money in, and you want something that will be immediate, and you'll be able to see sort of the change immediately. But that's a difficult one because I find data to be, you want to be able to take some time to learn. So it's not, I think previously we've rushed into things, but not necessarily we got the best outcome out of that. And I think when you're not a data person, it's kind of hard to see the benefit of that, the benefit of learning, the benefit of doing longer discoveries to understand what is exactly the need that we're trying to address, making sure that we're considering all of the factors. But I think today it's definitely clear to me that we want to, as an organization, we want to be able to know that if we're walking or running, in Com's case, a certain direction, we want to know that it's the right one. We don't want to we want to make a change. It's not helpful for us if whatever it is that we're doing is not leading towards this change. And I think also there was, I guess, a factor of that was, I don't know how it works in other organizations, but for us, I think leadership and senior management sort of recognizing the importance of data came from the bottom up. So we had users. Our users are very, especially our fundraising team, are very heavy users of Salesforce. So this is something nobody would go through their day without using Salesforce constantly. And I think it became clear that the benefit that this brings to users, being able to it could be small things like knowing if you're speaking to a supporter, knowing that somebody else from the organization has spoken to them already, or to know, people could come to us in all sorts of different ways, or reasons. So people could come in and decide that they want to run a marathon for us, and that's great. But sometimes people come in the most sensitive times of their lives. They have lost someone to suicide, they're devastated. And we need to be sensitive about that. So the ability to have the right data accessible to the right people who communicate with these supporters, it's crucial. It's crucial to make sure that we're doing our job properly. And I think that seeing the team sort of using Salesforce efficiently, turned it into it became very clear that this is important, and we need to make decisions sort of recognizing that. And I guess we're sliding away from your question, but I guess
that's okay. Go for it.
Very recently we decided to restructure our Salesforce org or instance. And that is because the way we worked as a small organization, and being sort of very specific around what our solutions are. Well, my cat is coming to join the conversation.
At least we got one extra viewer or listener this episode.
Exactly. I guess we were, as a small team, we were trying to address very specific needs with very specific solutions, but actually as a bigger organization, you can't find a specific route to every single job you're trying to perform on the database. So we needed to take a step back from it and to sort of move from adding modules patch on patch in a rush to sort of looking at the big picture and trying to understand what is it that we're trying to achieve and how are we measuring it. And in that period of time, management has been completely in on that, understood the importance of that, and understood the need to spend time and resources on finding a solution, because we don't want restructuring your database. This is not something you want to do regularly. You want to do that once, and for that to work for the next, I don't know, I imagine, it's really hard to know with data. Data changes all the time. The data world changes all the time. But if I was to choose a period of time, I would say for the next decade, this needs to work for us, and to work for us well. So yeah, I think management was completely invested in the need to dedicate some resources to that, and to make sure we're getting the right solution that is right for us, not just now, but for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched upon sort of earlier that there'd been sort of a couple of occasions maybe where you'd rushed into decisions sort of a little bit, and then sort of the outcomes that you had from that hadn't been potentially as you sort of hoped. Is there now, say, a different process in place, so to speak, that so that you now sort of go through before you pull the trigger on a specific product or project, to sort of prevent sort of potential, not mishaps, but say making sure that as sure as you can be that whatever you choose to implement is going to have the desired impact?
I think it's really hard to analyze the past, because obviously you did the things that you thought were best with the resources you had at the time. So I don't have any regrets. However, I do think that I recognize today the importance of sitting down and understanding what is it that you're trying to achieve, what's the end goal of this, and be mindful of that at all times, to keep an eye on the big picture, even if you're dealing with specific scenarios or specific modules. The more you keep an eye on that, the more you're able to see what comes out of it. I think this is something or a conversation that we have a lot within the organization. There's no point in data for the purpose of data. There's no need to record something just because, we think that maybe someday we will be able to use it. We need to know why we're doing it when we collect it. Otherwise, it's distracting us. It's distracting us from where we're trying to go. So if I could change one thing, this is what I would do. Sort of take it more into sort of the data path. What is it in the beginning, and how does it need to look like at the end?
Yeah, I got you. Makes sense. You touched upon sort of resources there. What sort of, I guess it's changed again sort of quite a lot over the last sort of 7 years or so, but sort of what resources have you sort of tapped into over that time, or sort of current state to deliver the projects that you've delivered, particularly say over the last sort of couple of years?
So yeah, it has changed quite dramatically, actually, because when I started, I was the data person in the organization. And now I'm happy to say that we've got a team of 5, so that includes me. And that's an amazing resource. I think having the right people within the organization, sitting with users, understanding the processes that people go through, and having the capabilities and the creativity and the care to make sure that we are getting into the right place. I couldn't stress this more. This is having the right team is really, really important, and being able to work efficiently within the team. That's one huge resource that we are very lucky to have at Calm. And other than that, I guess we've got a team of project managers, also something that we didn't have, I think, up until maybe 3 years ago. We didn't have any project managers. So if we were to take on a big project, we kind of needed to project manage it ourselves. And that's difficult because there's a lot of methodology, or the right way to do things, the right processes to go through that project managers can help with. And that's been specifically for our restructure project, or sort of moving into a new org. That's been so important to have somebody with their eye on times, with their eye on implications on other teams. So yeah, that's also one resource that I think the outcome would have looked completely differently without that. And then I guess another resource is consultancies, because sometimes I think there are a lot of things you can do. within the organization with the team that you have. But sometimes there's a need to either speed it up or making sure you're getting, because end of the day, you've got your people with their resources and sort of their skills. Sometimes you want to have a big of a wider picture of that and get more skills into the pile. And I think consultancies can a lot of the time help with that. And this is what we've chosen to do with our restructure project.
Yeah, and like you touched upon there, not just say the skills that they bring to the party, but it might not be that you sort of need those skills on a permanent basis, right, for 2 years or longer. It might just be a specific project that you're looking to deliver quickly and that require a specific set of skills where you can tap into that kind of external resource as well. So as probably pretty much every or most people in my position will try to recommend, and a lot of other sort of organizations as well, sort of that balance of both sort of internal knowledge and resources, as well as some support from externally as well, but definitely that sort of that established base of internal resource to be able to tap into on a continued basis, and like you touched upon there, sort of ingrained or entrenched in your business, who know your processes and your users, and
absolutely,
your customers, so to speak, is sort of crucially important as part of these projects. Whether we've touched upon sort of a little bit already on this, I guess, but what sort of have been, I guess, sort of the biggest challenges to sort of successfully deliver some of the projects that you sort of have, and how have sort of those challenges been overcome?
Are you asking specifically about the project, about the restructure of our Salesforce org, or generally?
Could be both, I guess. Projects more broadly, just sort of general successful delivery, Salesforce delivery. But if there's sort of a specific sort of, I guess, current project in mind, then you can definitely sort of relate it to that. No wrong answer here.
I think for me, the biggest challenge at CALM in general was to change with the organization, because obviously you wouldn't work the same way with 10 people and with 60 people. Your processes are different, your set of skills within the organization is different, and there's a need to keep on changing while also understanding that the organization is changing around you. And I guess that's kind of what led us to the restructure project, because it was, we were able to use our old instance to an extent, and we needed to keep considering the benefit of that to the organization, but also the price that we're paying by still using it. And I think recognizing that and being able to sort of have these conversations within an organization, that's been a huge challenge. Nobody likes change, especially nobody likes their database changing. We all used to, we want to have the same familiar thing. We want to work automatically, and sort of being up to speed with change. It's a huge challenge. I found that to be very challenging, and especially to convince people of that now we've tipped over to a situation where it's no longer valid. Whatever it is that we were, the assumptions we were working with a year ago, they're no longer valid. We need to change with reality. So yeah, that's been one big challenge. If I look at the I guess it's true for the specific project of restructuring org, but it's true for anything really. It's always the balance between what is it that your users need, and what is it that you're trying to achieve as an organization. Because we found it to be, as a user, you want things to to happen on their own. You don't want to be spending too much time clicking things and choosing things. But sometimes you need to decide what's more important right now. What are the priorities right this minute? Because we need to keep an eye on what is it that we're trying to achieve as an organization. So yeah, balancing between these two can be very challenging sometimes. And I guess sort of I that's personally for me, knowing what Salesforce can allow people to do and sort of support their roles, it's sometimes really hard for me to say, okay, I know Salesforce can do it. I know I can do it, but I can't do it right now because actually there are more burning priorities. So you're gonna have to wait for this thing to happen.
Yeah, 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 and being able to sort of communicate that effectively and sort of, I guess, bring them into your world and sort of what you're trying to achieve and deliver is essential, right? And understanding that them having a new field for something, etc., in the grand scheme of things isn't sort of a burning importance right at this very moment in time.
I mean, if you already mentioned a new field, there's another balance here. Yes, I can add technically, yes, absolutely, I can add a million new fields, but what is that going to impact? Us having very specific fields for very specific things and a long list. You know, you look at your page layout and it's all fields. Like, what are you getting out of this? So yeah, we need to. Yes, I can create a field, but should I? Just because I can, does it mean that I should right now? These are questions that I always ask myself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You've touched upon a few things already in terms of, obviously, when you first joined, the impact Salesforce had on sort of obviously processes more broadly, the fact that you were able to get sort of people donating or contributing directly through the website rather than via just giving. And obviously with Marketing Cloud more recently, the insights that's been able to offer from both a sort of a data perspective, but also insights into donators. Any other sort of, I guess, impacts that sort of Salesforce has had on Calm that we haven't touched upon already? I'm sure there's loads and loads. We could be here forever.
I think there's something around being able to share information with your colleagues. You want to that Salesforce makes really easy. So you go and record whatever it is the interaction you had with a supporter, and it's available for other people to go through, and to sort of not to invent the wheel every time you're speaking to someone, but sort of relying on the data that is already there and the knowledge that you have as an organization. I guess that's to do with sort of keeping the organizational data in a place that's accessible. We've got, people come and work in a certain place and then they leave, and then it hurts me personally thinking that you've got all of that knowledge that is organizational knowledge and is going to just move away with you. There's something about being able to keep this within the organization that is really important. We're all, I guess, especially charities, but all organizations, we're limited with resources. We want to be sure that we are working effectively and spending our time effectively. And Salesforce definitely allows that. But that's not, it's smaller than sort of, because I can't imagine Calm without Salesforce. It's being so, I can't imagine it. And actually, when I started working for Calm, Salesforce was already there. But I can't, there's so many things, so many different aspects that we record in Salesforce that sort of not having a place to do that, I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, and you touched upon sort of that reorg or building of sort of a new org or instance that you're going through at the minute. Anything else on the horizon for the next sort of 12 or 18 months for Calm and Salesforce?
Big dreams. I guess it's not that it's big, but it's not. It's not a revolutionary idea. I would like to see Calm working. I would like all of the people who work at Calm to be using Salesforce for their day-to-day. Right now, we in a position where so our fundraising aspects are being recorded in Salesforce and worked with constantly, but not as much with our campaigns and communications around not to supporters, communication outside of supporters. I think there's still a way. I would like to see all of the teams within the organization sort of work together in Salesforce and using the capabilities of sort of having one single path for data to go through, and not sort of isolate areas of the organization. It will happen. It takes time. These things take time, and it's always a matter of priorities. Once we have, so we've completed the restructure part of our project, but actually there are quite a lot of new integrations that we're handling at the moment, which will sort of take us another 6 months or so to complete. But after that, this is where I'd like to have my focus. Just working as an organization, not as teams.
Yeah, got you. And I know earlier you said you had no regrets, but anything you would do differently if you had your time again?
I'd get, you know what? I'm thinking if I was consulting to an organization the size of Calm when I joined, I would say focus more on data and having the right people in the organization to sort of, I think it's, so we've discussed working with consultancies before. I think there's something about the cooperation of a consultancy with people from within the organization who know the organization really, really well. And it's really important to have these people within the organization. You will never get the same level of knowledge from somebody who doesn't come into work every day, and that it doesn't matter if it's remotely or physically, and sit in the relevant conversations and understand the perspective of the organization, and the people as well. It's all down to people. You need to have really good relationships with the people within the organization because you want to be able to help them. And there's no consultancy in the world that can provide you with this. This is something that needs to come from within the organization. So yeah, I guess have a good, strong, appropriately sized Salesforce team within the organization is the only. It wasn't something that I could control back then, but this would definitely be my advice.
Cool. Anything else that we haven't sort of touched upon that sort of you'd like to share, either about sort of Calm or about the sort of the journey that you've been through that might be useful for any other sort of potential businesses at varying sort of stages of their journey?
I think this is a learning curve that I'm going through in the last, I'd say probably 3 years, and that's to be really focused on the needs of the organization and the priorities to that. There's something about if you don't prioritize anything, if nothing is more important, then nothing is important. And it's really important to know what are you spending your resources on. And in order to do that, you need to be really clear on the needs and where do they sit. And I guess I don't know if this is common nowadays, but we've worked in a way, there's something about, I don't know, I feel like when I've started my career, there would be a project, right? And you would have the beginning of a project and the end of the project, and you would not see anything in between. While these days, so for the Salesforce restructure, we worked with a model by model approach. So we would focus on one thing, complete it, move on to the next one. And then it means that you don't have sort of a beginning and an end where you launch this massive thing, but you do get to learn from your experience, so be more agile, and sort of learn or format best practices that work for you in the context of your team and your needs and your priorities. So sort of, yeah, just always be very clear on what is it that you need out of it. It's sometimes very easy. It sounds very simple, but it's very easy to forget that when you are, going into field and page layouts. But actually, what is it? What is it that this thing needs to do? Yeah, it's really important, I think.
Of course, of course. Well, I mean, you've been absolutely great, Sivan. Thanks so much for joining us and sharing sort of Calm's Salesforce story, if you like, and hopefully there's some useful tips and tricks in there for other businesses that are potentially about to embark on this journey as well, and also as well, probably more importantly, thanks obviously for those that haven't come across Calm before for bringing Calm's attention to individuals. Obviously, whatever your situation may well be, make sure to check Calm out. And obviously, if you are sort of struggling, they are an organisation who's there to help and always available to listen. So please do get in touch with them if you are sort of struggling or know anybody that might be. At the end of the recording, we'll put up some contacts that you can use if you have been listening to this, and there is sort of something that you'd like to talk to. So definitely do use those. But thanks again so much for joining us, Sivan, and we'll be back soon with another episode of the Blazing a Trail Salesforce podcast.